Sponsored by Skillshare. I've been using the Apple Watch Series 5 since just after Apple introduced it back in September of this year. In that time, I've used it awake and asleep, at home and while traveling, for movie tickets and boarding passes, to track physical activity and hydration, to control my home and to stay in touch with the people I love, and to demonstrate its safety features probably more often than I should have. And I've come to a few conclusions in that time. I know. Conclusions are supposed to come at the end of a review and not at the beginning, but just give me this one time. It took Apple 5 years to nail the original iPhone concept. It would have been 4, but the new antenna system was better enough to push it to 5 for me. Likewise, it took Apple 5 years to nail the original watch concept. It also would have been 4, but the always-on display was, again, pivotal enough to push it for me. In my Apple Watch Series 5 review, I said the addition of Always On took it from being the best smartwatch in the world to being the best damn watch in the world, period. And 3 months later, I stand by that, absolutely, 100%. But it's also something more, not just the best watch of the year, but the best gadget of the decade. I know some of you will argue the iPad, and that's a really close second for me, but it's more of an escalation when it comes to ultra-personal computing, not a revelation. Same for the iPhone 4 or 4S. Others will argue Alexa or Tesla, but those are still limited and problematic in as many ways as they're miraculous. Still others may be AirPods, but I think those really have their most important decade ahead of them. The Apple Watch was not only born smack dab in the middle of this decade, but constantly iterated and improved over the last 5 years with better performance, connectivity, edge-to-edgier display, and now an always-on display, all of which are important. But more important, most important, it does something no other piece of personal computing technology has ever done before. Specifically, purposefully, it saves lives. PCs, phones, tablets, all of them can and do save lives, of course, every day. But the Apple Watch was designed explicitly to save lives. It's a main area of focus, a primary function, an industry-leading technology as health empowerment. Not just heart rate monitoring, not just fall detection, not just all the research projects, not just ECG or international SOS, not any one feature, but all of them, all by design, which to me makes it stand out above and beyond, even by and from the company that gave us the iPhone. And that's why the Apple Watch, from inception to current culmination in the Series 5, is the gadget of the decade and the most important device Apple has ever made. But that doesn't mean there aren't still aspects left for me to complain about. The opposite, in fact, because that's what'll lead Apple Watch to getting even better in the next decade. I'm Rene Ritchie, and this is Apple Watch Series 5. 3 months later, on Vector. Up until this September, the Apple Watch was really good at just about everything, with the biggest, most glaring exception being a watch. But, like I said in my September review and my October update, the Series 5 always-on display has completely, utterly fixed that for me, with style. Where before I'd have to twist my wrist or tap the display just to see the time, an inconvenience at best, an embarrassment at worst, now I can just glance down, anywhere, anywhen, and find out immediately just when that anywhen actually is. Over the last few months, I've spoken to doctors and other people in services industries, athletes and people who work out at home or in classes, and all of them, to a one, have remarked at how transformative the always-on display has been for them. It removes that tiny but frequent friction not in their workflows but in their lives. Sure, those with traditional watches or other smartwatches that have had always-on displays for a while now will snicker and i-roll.gif so hard, but only until this cold, hard reality five-fingers it to their face. Previously, everything else about the Apple Watch, from health and fitness to notifications and communications to remote control and content, was so damn great, users were willing to put up with the lack of always-on time just to keep using it. Now, it still has all that terrific Apple Watch stuff, and the best implementation of always-on display in the industry as well. I covered the details in my September review, but the watch faces going from bright to dark and the refresh rate from 60 Hz to 1 Hz means the experience stays consistent and your watch stays feeling like your watch. There's a permanence to it, a beautiful illusion of a singular object like a traditional watch, but with all the computational advantages still right behind it. My only gripe remains where that experience does still get broken. notifications. You can see them, even in always on mode, but when you tap on them, they don't pop up. The display brightens up, and then you have to tap on them again just to do what you originally wanted to do. In other words, you have to step out of low power mode before you can step into an action. That's 2 steps, which shatters the beautiful illusion just a bit, and I can never remember the first time to do it. I'm hoping Apple can figure out how to detect notification taps and piggyback the wake up with the pop-up, because then it would feel pretty damn near perfect. I know some people complained about battery life with the always-on display as well, especially in the first few days and weeks following launch. I experienced that as well, but only for a day or two. Ever since, it's been just as good as the Series 4 for me. It easily lasts until the end of the day, even with a couple of workouts in, and up to a day and a half, almost 2 days when I'm not working out. And honestly, I don't mind that. I'm old enough to remember Ma Bell hardline phones that plugged into the wall and never ran out of power. By comparison, modern smartphones have to be recharged every day or two, but the functionality they provide makes the trade-off more than worthwhile. Same with the Apple Watch for me. I had to wind some old watches, replace batteries every couple of years on others, but even though I have to charge my Apple Watch every day or two right alongside my phone, the functionality it provides is so far beyond any traditional watch or even week-long smartwatch that the trade-off is stratospherically more than worthwhile for me. But yeah, sure, the longer lasting it gets at some point in the future, the better. Also, I would still love to see a greater variety of digital faces, and of course, something that builds off the photo face to let us make our own far more custom faces, maybe even better than watch face apps, given the dependencies involved. Otherwise, Always On so vastly improves my Apple Watch experience that I'd upgrade just for it, even if I didn't have to because of what I do. I don't for a moment think that applies to everybody, maybe even many buddies. I have family members who are just fine without it. But for me, someone who's been complaining loudly about the lack of it for as long as it's been lacking, and for anyone for whom unobtrusive time checking matters, Always On isn't just a nice to have, it's a must have. I was snarky about Apple Watch Series 5 getting a compass when it was first announced. I'll admit that. It had been so long since the iPhone 3GS added it that I hadn't given it much of any thought. Not for years. Now, I haven't used a standalone compass on the watch for anything other than a tech demo, probably because I'm mostly an indoor human, like an indoor pet, not a wild one. The biggest hike I'll go on is a couple hours in the nature preserve near my old house. If I did one of those iJustine or Saturn hikes, I'm sure I'd have it on constantly just to get there and back again. But I really do like the way the compass manifests in the Maps app for walking directions, which I use all the time while traveling. Also, I deeply, abidingly want the Apple Watch to become an independent device, separate from the iPhone, the way the iPhone was made separate from the PC back with iOS 5. And this gets us just one more step, or I guess one more step in the right direction, closer to that. Last year's Apple Watch Series 4 with fall detection in the ECG app was a huge leap, not just in personal technology, but personal safety. This year's international emergency calling is more of the same, but different. By making sure the new cellular radio has support for at least one band in almost every region, Apple is making sure the watch can call for help, even if you have no iPhone with you and no active cell plan in every one of those regions. It means if you're traveling, away from home, alone, lost, in danger, if something happens and you have an accident and can't find or reach your iPhone, you can still call for help. Luckily, I haven't had to use it, but I'm super happy it's there. And sure, it won't cover every possible situation every possible time, but it will cover more than was possible ever before. And that's why I spent the beginning of this video saying just how important the Apple Watch's ever-increasing safety features really are. The Apple Watch has proven to be something of a playground for Apple's material sciences team. Above and beyond the more typical aluminum and steel, they've gotten to experiment with gold, ceramics, and now titanium. I've been wearing the brushed titanium Apple Watch Series 5 for the last couple of months, and it's held up perfectly. I don't know if it's the material itself, the brushed finish, or that special surface treatment Apple gave it, but I haven't been able to spot so much as a scratch on it. I still kind of miss not having gotten a ceramic this year because I love the look. It really is a Stormtrooper watch, as my in-universe agent Dave Wiskus keeps telling me. I mean, just look at it. I don't know if it's the exact same composition as the Series 3 white ceramic, but the material looks just as good to my eye, and the new design makes it look even better overall. Now, I know some people will say paying extra simply for different and more expensive materials is insane, given that the technology will probably be classified as vintage within 5 years and unusable within 7 to 10. But watches have never been just about practicality, and some people spend money on far more frivolous and less useful things than that don't even last as long, so I'll never judge. Though I would really love to see something similar to the iPhone upgrade program, but for Apple Watch. I don't know if there's enough of a secondary market yet to support it, like there is with the iPhone, but that Apple brought back the Series 3 for $199 makes me think we're getting there. I'll probably switch to the aluminum, by which I mean the Nike version, and stick with that at some point in the next series or two, but then I say that every year. I haven't really thought that much about watchOS 6 over the last few months, and I mean that in the absolute best way possible. Apple devices really transcend when they nail the integration of hardware, software, and increasingly services. With Apple Watch in particular though, watchOS has just come to feel like such a natural, singular part of the watch hardware that I never really think about them as separate things anymore at all. Not in the way both iOS 13 and macOS Catalina have pretty much forced me to think about them in relation to the iPhone, iPad, and Mac, this year in particular. The noise feature is new and great, but it's just there on my watch face. I never have to even think about going to look for it. And the on-device app store is just the way it should work. Want app, find app, tap app, have app, done. Sure, there still aren't a lot of apps, and some apps have been retired, but I think that's actually fine and proper by me. Apple originally made a traditional as in iPhone style app store for the Apple Watch just because back then that's what Apple did. Like everything to their hammer was a nail. But just like iPhone apps were often broken up to be smaller and more specific than Mac apps, watches needed something even smaller and even more hyper-specific, even than phones. So the very best watch apps were even more broken up into notification-based actions and informational complications. If the Mac had suites and apps, and the iPhone apps and tabs, the watch has tabs and buttons. If the apps disappeared and I just had the complications and notifications and something like glances, I'd be fine, and I think that's entirely how it should be. At least until we get even smaller voice-first AirPods quote-unquote apps in a few years. But I digress. Fitness trends is something I really wanted to test out more, but travel and being under the weather in between completely harshened that mellow for me. I did spend a lot of time testing out more quantitative life apps though. I used a sleep tracker for the first time. As you may imagine, my sleep hygiene was pretty much non-existent at first, but thanks to the app and some healthcare professionals in the family, I've gotten it back up to almost human levels. Mostly. Same with hydration. I'm drinking more water more often than ever before. I do have one request for watchOS 7 though, smart notification coalescence. I said this back when Apple launched their push notification service for the first time, but if we're not all very, very careful, notification quickly becomes interruption and information becomes distraction. That's why I have almost all notifications for almost all things turned off. But for these, I need them on. So, while I get the advantages of being told to stand up, to drink up, to pay attention to a score of other really important things, I really want all those important things to be better coordinated. Here's what I mean. The hydration app wants to tell me to get more water, so it dispatches that to the central smart system. That system checks to see if I've already made my stand goal for the hour. If not, it cues a single notification telling me to stand up and get some water at the same time. If I have unread messages, it also shows me those while I'm standing up and hydrating. Because why not? That way I'm only interrupted once, 10 minutes before every hour, and not randomly throughout the hour. Bundle it all into a next generation assistant while you're at it, because that's really the job of a good hyper-personal assistant, giving you that hyper-personal productivity boost. No pressure. Because for right now, I get all the productivity boost I need with Thomas Frank and Skillshare. Thomas Frank of YouTube and College Info Geek fame offers a productivity masterclass. Learn to create a simple, customized productivity system that will transform your personal and professional life, allowing you to go after your dreams and achieve your goals as we head into 2020. And you can get it right on Skillshare, an online learning community with thousands of classes in video, audio, business, and more. Premium membership gives you unlimited access to high-quality classes on must-know topics so you can improve your skills, unlock new opportunities, and do the work you love. Join more than 7 million creators learning with Skillshare. Just visit the link in the description and get 2 months of unlimited access to thousands of classes for free. Act now and start learning today. Thanks, Skillshare, and thanks to all of you for supporting the show. So, 3 months later, and the Apple Watch Series 5 is just what I said up front. Watch of the year and gadget of the decade, at least for me. Now, I'd love to hear what you think. So if you like this video, please hit the button and share it so more people can find out about the channel. It really helps. Subscribe if you haven't already, and always on that bell gizmo so YouTube will actually tell you when future shows go live. Then hit up the comments and let me know. Apple Watch Series 5. Got it? Want it? Or just what do you feel about it in general? Thanks for watching. See you next video.